Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This foggy morning in Belgium. Very pleased to welcome President Metsola and the Conference of the Presidents of the European Parliament here in Brussels. Your visit is the first formal visit from an EU institution which is connected to the Belgian presidency of the Council, which will take place beginning of next year. In a mark, it is a bit the unofficial start of our presidency. This visit, of course, highlights the important relationship between the presidency of the Council of the European Union and the European Parliament. Our presidency comes at an important moment, at a moment where we need to respond to the expectations from our countries. That means protecting our people, that means strengthening our economy, that means preparing a shared future. And in many ways, you could say that in the European Union today, we stand at a crossroad. The unity of that union will be of critical importance to determine our shared success in tackling the many challenges that are ahead. First of all, our geopolitical environment. It is clear that it has turned more unstable and in a sense also more hostile. And we have important decisions ahead in a way to stabilize our continent. And really that will be the priority for the next weeks and the next months. And of course, more specifically, it is important that we show our continued strong support for Ukraine. Second element is that we will close the current institutional cycle. It's clear that this will require substantial work to finalize several important pieces of legislation that are still in the works today. I know that our Spanish friends are doing huge efforts and really thank them for that, but we'll be glad to take over what is necessary. Third element, we will be preparing the Council's priorities for the next institutional cycle, making sure that all the member states can convey their priorities to the incoming Commission and to the incoming European Parliaments. In all these endeavors, dear Roberta, we are looking forward to the cooperation with the European Parliament. And if we want to be successful in our presidency, it's crucial that we work together in the most efficient way. Of course, you know that as your host country, we are particularly appreciative of the important work that the Parliament is doing and of the valuable contribution of the Parliament in its leadership and its members and in making the democracy function in the Union. And also would like to take this opportunity and to thank you personally, dear Roberta, for your unwavering commitment to the excellent relationship between the institution and your host city and your host country. And I say your host city and your host country, because I know that's how you view it. I really would like to thank you and all the efforts of your staff in making this work in a fluent way. I'm confident that we will cooperate in a positive and in a constructive spirit. We need to deliver. And we need to deliver on quite a substantial amount of legislative work, and we are really looking forward to that. And again, I would like to thank the impressive effort of the Spanish presidency, and they're not at the end yet. We still have high expectations for them in the next week. So let me conclude by saying we are really looking forward to this. For Belgium, it is the 13th time that we will take this presidency. So in a sense, you could say we should be knowing what you're doing. I'm convinced of that. I give you the word now, Roberta.
Thank you, and good morning very much. Thank you, Alexander, Prime Minister, for the invitation and this opportunity for the Conference of Presidents in the European Parliament to visit you in our shared capital. And as you say, our host country. The Belgian EU Council presidency comes at a very important time. It will be for you, as you've just said, to close this mandate, to finalise the remaining work, and also ensure the smooth transition to the next one. We are looking forward very much today to discussing with you the Belgian government's plans for the presidency, but I'm already confident that it will be successful. You have the experience, you have the knowledge and the motivation. So today's meetings will very much allow us to hit the ground running on the 1st of January. Looking back at this mandate, one would say we've had a marathon 5-year term working on and adopting legislation to make Europe greener, Europe fairer, more competitive, geopolitical and fit for the digital age. Your presidency now comes at the end of this cycle. The last plenary of this European Parliament will be held at the end of April, so time will be of essence here. But we also know that the Belgians are very good negotiators. And I can assure you that the European Parliament is ready for the final legislative sprint. And I'm confident that together we will get the legislation over the finish line. With 2024 being an election and an institutional year, we also need to look forward to the new mandate. And the European Parliament is clear in its position that we need to continue the conversation about what the future European Union will look like. We have given the political green light as a parliament to a further enlargement of the European Union, and we expect candidate countries to reform and change to join our union. But we must do the same to get ready from our end. It is clear that what works for 27 countries will not work for 32, 33 or even more member states. We as a European Parliament have invested a lot in setting up the Conference on the Future of Europe, and earlier this month we adopted a report, our contribution to a debate that we are convinced needs to happen. Last word, the Belgian presidency will mark 20 years since the last EU convention. And at that time, the convention came from the 2001 Belgian presidency's Laken Declaration. So we really hope that 23 years later, the Belgian presidency will once again take the lead and we will be your partners right along it. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister and President Metsola. I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions. We're a little bit short on time. So if you could please stand up, state your name and the media you work for before asking your question, please. Yes, please.
Véronique Lamquin, Le Soir. Good morning. Thank you for the question. Can you elaborate a bit on the legislations you do want to finalize during the Belgian presidency, Mr. De Croo and Ms. Metsola?
Well, there's just naming the domains. Obviously, there's a whole domain on asylum and migration, and really, I think that's a crucial one for everyone, but especially on the Belgian side. It's an important one. We will only tackle that if we do it as a European bloc and not the way it is organized today. We also know that in the whole domain of the Green Deal, there's a whole series of legislation that needs to be finalized. So that's on the legislative part. What I would like to add on the Green Deal side is that we also need to work on the other side of the Green Deal. The Green Deal, to me, is a good package of legislation. It's Europe at its best. But we also need to look at how do we support our industry in achieving that. And so the whole domain of industrial policy and keeping industry in Europe will be an important part for us.
Yeah, just to continue from where the Prime Minister left off, we're looking at the last few weeks of a Spanish presidency where we will try to find as global a political agreement as possible on all the pending migration files, 5 pieces of legislation. It's been over a decade in the making. We are confident it will pave the way for the political agreement with the Council just before Christmas, and then it will be for the Belgian presidency to take over what would be left from that package in order for us in the Parliament to vote on it in February or in March, and therefore go to our citizens in the elections, including the citizens of Belgium, who asked us in 2019 to deliver a package on migration and asylum, that we would have done so, because I don't see a possibility that we can go to those citizens and tell them that actually we didn't manage to find an agreement. So that, for me, would be the number one priority. In total, there are around 150 files to close. No pressure on all of us, but it also means that we have seen huge progress. I see your ministers laughing, Alex.
Now we're getting nervous.
We're getting nervous, no pressure. But we have closed huge files on media freedom, journalism, looking at what is necessary for what the Parliament has been asking for in terms of rule of law, digitalization, artificial intelligence, what is left of the Green Deal, but also the economic and social cushions that have to be given in order to really cushion the impact on our industries, on our small businesses, on our families. This is definitely something that we will need to put into our narrative as we go towards the election and present a very balanced and, I think, unprecedented amount of legislation that would have gone through in what would be, let's say, a crisis-ridden mandate, but one where we emerged more united and more willing to work than ever before.
Maybe one last question. Yes, please.
Leo Senderich, the Brussels Times. I wonder if you could tell us a bit more about what's going to be happening in the modalities of the presidency. You mentioned April. Is there going to be any possibility of meetings or negotiations after that period and before the actual elections?
So the calendar is fixed. This is what happens every 5 years, that there will be a rush to finish quite a lot of trialogues during the last plenary session. That will be the last possibility for us to vote on legislation. I do not exclude that political meetings take place, but the elections will be later this year than usual, so the 6th to the 9th of June across Europe, and that means that already the week after, the European Parliament will start to meet informally. So there will be the last 2 weeks of June where there will be a European Council and the already informal talks between the political groups. The constitution of a parliament that might look different to the one that we have today, but one where we continue to hope that the elections will produce a constructive, as we call it, pro-European centre that will be able to deliver the majorities, the votes that we need in order to take the very big decisions at the end of June, beginning of July, going through to September. But as I said, the first 4 months, my recollection from the last mandate where I was a member of the European Parliament, they are extremely hectic, and you can do quite a lot in 4 months when compared to 6. So again, Alexander, no pressure on you. But
no, I agree on that. Maybe in complement to what Roberta said, for us after April, the focus will be on the strategic outlook for the Union and especially on the discussion on the future of the EU. So we'll keep working until June 8th. And then we go to elections. Maybe a last one?
Last question. Yes, please, madam.
Thank you. Irin Zarkadoula with Athens News Agency. You talked about the pact on migration. So both of you, are you confident that we could have a final deal, a new pact, during the Belgian presidency and before the European elections? Thank you.
I think, as Roberta said, that's what's expected from us, and that's what we need to do as politicians. Is to be clear on what we think is the priority, and I think this domain really is on the top of the agenda everywhere in Europe, and we need to deliver on that. Now, if you ask, do you have 100% certainty? On what do you have 100% certainty in life? But we'll do everything to get it, and I'm confident that it is possible.
Yeah, the majority that was found in the Council can be matched with a majority in the Parliament in order for us to have the final vote before the elections. It all hangs on what December brings. There are still quite a lot of outstanding issues. They are not new issues, whether it is about secondary movements, reunification, the balance, very delicate in this pact between security on the one hand, protection of borders, and asylum, solidarity between member states, bringing the north, the south, the east and west of Europe together, and ultimately having a pact that will allow confidence between member states, that when there is an entry at the external border, then that will not automatically lead to the reintroduction of internal borders, as we've seen over the past years, and that is obviously symptomatic of the fact that we did not find an agreement between the Parliament and the Council during the last mandate. Perhaps one more thing, the pact, I'm reasonably confident that we can manage. That doesn't mean it's the end of the road. We still have the external dimension. We still need to discuss safe third countries. We still need to make sure that we link, and this will be a big discussion also in the future of Europe debate and where we go in the next 5 years. What is our neighbourhood policy? How you manage to link development, returns, resettlement, models that so far do not work as well as they used to work 5 years ago. And that's a reality we need to face. And it's one that is a political step that needs to accompany also the pact.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you in the next months.